of the Nevada County Americans for Safe Access. Welcome everybody to the show.
Thank you.
Rand Paul has resurrected Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and he did so successfully. Tell us about it, Gary.
Well, he did it for 12 hours, but unfortunately nature called and he had to stop. But no, it was funny. Of all things, I lay flooring for a living, and I was on my way home. Or no, I was on my way to the job and heard Rush, and I never listened to him anymore, but he had him on. And it was kind of an interesting interview, and talked about doing the filibuster, and unfortunately when nature was calling on him, he had to stop. But talked about the Bill of Rights, our Constitution, everything about these drone attacks, and debating all the very issues of the whole thing, and especially telling Rush, okay, there's this suspected terrorist that comes that's in our country, and it's an American citizen. I mean, we have the right to use a drone and kill the guy, and so without due process or anything. So it was that was the whole purpose of his filibuster, was to get the guy to answer, the question.
Get the guy. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, issued a statement a couple days ago suggesting that the U.S. government, the president, would have the authority to use a drone strike against an American citizen on U.S. soil if they were a combatant and there was an imminent threat. And the debate had gone around the definition of the word imminent and combatant. Was this somebody who had information that would allow give him the capability to make a bomb, or was this somebody that was about to detonate a bomb? What is imminent and what is a combatant?
Yeah.
But really the issue was the filibuster was centering on John Brennan's nomination to be the new director of the CIA. And John Brennan was formerly the National Counterterrorism Czar, and he was instrumental in the whole overseas drone program. And that's a split program. There's the CIA portion, which doesn't, kind of operates under the executive branch independently. And then there's the Special Forces military drone program, which is more targeted at tactical targets in the field, combatants in Pakistan, Iraq. They're areas of coverage kind of overlap, but it's very controversial overseas. And
it's controversial for two reasons. One reason is that there is precedent in the Obama administration of killing an American. It didn't happen in the U.S.
Yemen.
It happened in Yemen, and an American citizen was targeted and killed, and his 15-year-old son was killed along with him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's a real question as to whether or not. Obviously, an American citizen, wherever he is, has certain Bill of Rights, rights. The expectation of being arrested, put on trial before just being summarily executed, and that's what Obama did. Rand Paul was asking one further qualifying question of the administration. You've already demonstrated that you're willing to kill an American citizen overseas. Are you also willing to kill an American citizen with no, be judge, jury, and executioner on American soil? On American soil. Yeah. And Holder, as you pointed out, gave a non-answer.
Yeah.
So Rand Paul decided to do a filibuster, stopping the confirmation of Brennan until, and Brennan being a big drone proponent, stopping the confirmation until he got an answer. And he finally got an answer. So the filibuster worked.
After the
answer he got was a two-sentence answer, which was, no, we don't have the, we understand there's a further question that we weren't asked before, which is BS.
Yeah.
The second question, and then, no, we don't have the authority to kill an American citizen on U.S. soil absent an imminent attack. And that was good enough for Rand Paul to say, okay, I'll call off the filibuster, and he voted in favor of cloture, but then against Brennan being confirmed.
Brennan was nominated, I think it was 64 to 34, something like that. He was confirmed as the new director of the CIA. He also happens to be intimately involved with the whole rendition program and the they don't call it torture. What do they call it? Extreme interrogation techniques,
Enhanced,
or whatever
I think.
the
Enhanced
euphemism
interrogation,
is.
yeah.
Enhanced interrogation techniques. But the whole issue of drones overseas has really been overshadowed. Most Americans, under the guise of nationalism, patriotism, which I equate really with militarism, and I oppose with libertarianism, which is based on free trade, and it doesn't have anything to do with libertarianism. Is the opposite of nationalism in most respects, other than pride in our nation and the things that our founders and our Constitution stands for.
Libertarianism is in favor of the idea of America, not what America has become as an empire.
Right.
Yeah.
Nationalism, patriotism, and militarism are not something that generally libertarians support. But under the since 9/11, we've gone hog wild in this country, where we, as a nation, a large majority of the population doesn't believe there's a problem with shooting missiles out of the drones at bad guys in other parts of the world. The problem with that is that China and Russia have drones too. And what if they decide there's bad guys in our country that they want to shoot them at? We have no argument against that. We cannot say, nope, you can't do that.
Except for we would, because we always make
We have the
exceptions
biggest
for
guns.
ourselves.
Right. But
Is that what American exceptionalism is about?
Yes.
Approve, and it's sad that undeclared wars that we're doing all this.
I have a interesting thing to point out, too, is that these unmanned drone attacks have taken out innocent people around the targeted person, and where would that leave us here? I mean, they're going to just take out a shopping
absolutely.
center?
I mean, we have probably multiplied by hundreds the number of terrorists and terrorist sympathizers
Exactly.
in countries like Yemen and Pakistan and Jordan and elsewhere in the Middle East. Simply by killing innocent bystanders.
Exactly.
yeah, it's the term that's used to describe this, and it's been used by CIA directors and intelligence officials for the last 5 years. Before that, it's called blowback. And it's not in any dictionary older than 10 years old. That word was not used, but it's
Popularized by Ron Paul.
popularized by Ron Paul, and it's
Especially on
a
Bill Maher.
real thing. And
thought it
it
was
happens
collateral.
with the whole entire Arab world because of what
That's the official language.
because of what Israel's doing in the West Bank. It's happening in the Arab, in fundamentalist Islamic portions of the world, which we're never going to eliminate fundamentalism. Fundamentalism exists among Christians in this country. It exists among Jews in Israel. It exists among Muslims in Muslim countries. There are fundamentalists everywhere.
And Democrats and Republicans.
Militants.
And what we're doing through our overseas interventionism, our drone program, supporting fundamentalism in Israel, is we're encouraging fundamentalism among our enemies. And that's all. That's it. That's blowback.
Yeah.
And we're going to reap the costs. Our wars in Afghanistan and Iraq are not settling down, despite what you might hear on the evening news. These situations are not getting any cleaner or any better. They're getting worse.
In fact, I can't remember the numbers. Something like $70 billion worth of American military gear, trucks, armored personnel carriers, tanks, missile launchers, whatever we have in Afghanistan. We don't have enough security to drive it out of the country. We're going to leave it behind because it's cheaper to leave it behind than to pay for the security to get it out of the country. So
Mothball.
So I mean, we are leaving.
We're
much larger hornet's nest than we came into.
Another interesting point about the filibuster was, where were the Democrats?
Ron Wyden was there, to his credit.
One.
That's
One
it.
person.
One guy. The rest of them were too busy. Their busy lives precluded them from having anything to do with defending the Bill of Rights, or an American
Shameful.
president being able to.
Or Lindsey
American
Graham
citizens.
and John McCain and the rest having dinner with.
They
the
were an
president.
embarrassment.
The
Yeah.
leaders of our country may be united in supporting this national security state and, the power of the executive branch, because maybe their guy will be in charge next time. But I think that the whole issue about drone strikes on U.S. citizens on U.S. soil has really done a great job in uniting people of all parties, not voters, not leaders, but voters, I think, are pretty. This is
one of the things
unifying event.
Yeah, one of the things about the 13-hour Rand Paul filibuster is that it became the number one Twitter phenomena of the day. It was all over Facebook. I mean, it dominated Facebook and every other form of social media. This is something that was uniting libertarians, Republicans who don't believe in warfare, and Democrats and the progressive left. They were all standing with Rand, and I predict here and now Rand Paul will be a candidate for president in 2016, and I think he'll stand a pretty good chance of winning because he's going to be able to get past the media. The media has been trashing him. The establishment under the auspices of McCain and Lindsey Graham and the rest of these idiots that have already proven that they can't win. Witness McCain. Yeah. They've been bad-mouthing him. The New York Times bad-mouthed him. The Washington Post bad-mouthed the filibuster. But he's doing like Reagan did. He's going around the old media, going directly to the American people, and he's got a lot of tools that Reagan didn't have, namely the internet. I think I'm more and more optimistic than I've been in a long time after the success of that filibuster.
Yeah, civil liberties unifies both
it
parties.
Does. And the other thing that unifies both ordinary voters in both parties is the realization that the government is spending way too much money, that we have a spending problem, not a tax problem. It's all very fine and well for Obama to say we need to have a balanced approach, but then the only balance is raising taxes, and when it comes time to cut spending, he's out to lunch. The American people understand that we have a huge spending problem. It started under Baby Bush. Well, it started a long time ago. It was dramatically increased under Baby Bush with his 9/11 military buildup. Yeah. And Obama has doubled down on the military spending, not to mention the domestic spending. So we have a huge problem, and that problem has inadvertently been nicked at, and I use the word nicked advisedly, by the sequester. The sequester is not actually cutting spending, it's merely cutting the rate of growth in spending. But the Democrats in the persona of Obama are crying bloody murder and canceling tours of the White House as if that was going to be a way of cutting spending. I'm going to guess right now that the sequester is going to be essentially unnoticed by the American people unless Obama is totally Machiavellian using the Washington Monument technique.
So out of the $4 trillion, it'd be just like $85 billion, right?
Yeah, it's a portion.
I mean, just a little crumb out of the whole pie.
It's like 2 or 3%.
Yeah.
Of the increase. I mean, it's nonsense that it has any that it would have any impact.
Well, the general the lingo in Washington is anything that is a reduction of the planned increase is considered a cut. So the terminology that's used for everything is built in plus 5% growth a year is called baseline budgeting. So the budget was expected to increase 5% this year, and this represents a 2% cut. So instead of a 5% increase, it's a 3% increase.
That's a cut.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and according to Maxine Waters, it will destroy 170 million of our 157 million jobs in the U.S. So
she must be thinking ahead. Maxine, 5% they couldn't hire.
Maxine Waters.
It'd be interesting to see how
Maxine Waters is the gift that keeps on giving.
That's that Waters. New math for you.
Yeah, she took the exaggerations and threats that were issued by all of the rest of the government officials. Janet Napolitano was famously, we're going to let the people go from the INS detention centers, and we're going to have to, furlough all of our TSA inspectors, and the airport lines are going to double and triple in size. And they threw out, and they were, the lines at the two biggest airports in the country, Chicago and LA, were going to just increase tremendously, and big flight delays.
Well, I'm sure that they'll try to do that. They will. Right. The Obama administration will try. They'll do their damnedest to cut services where people notice.
Right.
As opposed to cut.
It's like the knife to the throat.
Yeah, cut things that nobody could care less about.
Just to get more votes.
Well,
to get what you want.
You get what
Yeah.
he wants, which is tax increases, very little spending cuts, if any. But I'm going to guess that the American people are probably on to this game. We'll see.
I think once again, there's a huge divide between what the American people want, which is less government spending, and what the ruling class wants. And when I say ruling class, I'm including all the people that work for the government as well as our elected officials. What the elected officials want to do is to buy votes. And they buy votes with money. And they don't want less money because that means less votes. And they are horse trading. You know, the big dinner that was held last night between the president who bought filet mignon and whatever else and nice wine for all of his senators, and they got together and they're working out a deal, right? Well, what they're working out is you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You sign my, you approve my project, I'll approve yours. This is the way it's always worked. The Republicans and the Republicrats are not going to solve the problem of excessive spending. The sequester is a tiny baby step in the right direction, but there needs to be much more massive cuts. The last president...
And Rand Paul is making that case very eloquently.
Yeah.
He is. The last president to reduce federal spending was Ike. I mean, he cut Truman's military budget by 30% out of the gate. He's the last guy that was actually, George W. Bush was a veteran, but Ike the general cut the military way back. He warned us about the military-industrial compact.
Yeah.
He actually cut, when he left office in 1961, the spending levels were 15% below, in real terms, what they were when he took office. So this is the last one. Ever since then, Republican and Democrat spending has increased steadily. Reagan too, all of them.
I think they're one party anymore. I mean, it doesn't matter which one's in office. Spending goes up, our liberties go down, and it's just the same path.
That's a really good point. Liberty, the size of government, it directly is inversely correlates with personal liberty. And the other thing, in conservatives, a lot of conservative Republicans don't trust the government to handle anything to do with domestic affairs, and they're all for cutting domestic spending, but by God, don't touch the Department of Defense. They're so smart at foreign affairs. We do such a good job. How could you doubt our foreign policy? Our government is so good at that, but they suck at domestic policy. They're terrible. They're idiots.
It's a fear-based meme on both sides. The Democrats use fear to say that children and grandparents are going to starve. Exactly. It's a fear-based meme on the part of neocons to say that without massive sustenance for Lockheed and Raytheon and all of the rest of the defense contractors, that unless we spend all of this money, we're going to be overrun by the
Chinese,
barbarian
Islamists, whoever.
But that's how a lot of them campaign and get their votes when they.
Yeah, but it's based on fear.
Yeah,
it's based on
and division.
I'm voting for him because he's going to save Medicare or he's going to save this or that.
Yeah.
That affects me.
What we need to do is realize that they're all trying to scare us into increasing their turf, whether it's the left or the right.
I find it God, gays, guns, ganja, and gangs. The 5 divisive issues.
5 Gs, huh?
Hugo Chavez finally died of the cancer he's been suffering from for a number of years. And immediately before that, the vice president in Venezuela made threatening noises about conspiracies to give Chavez cancer. And immediately after he died, the Russian Communist Party leader, Gennady Zyuganov, called for an investigation of why 6 left-leaning Latin American leaders have been diagnosed with cancer in the last few years. They include Argentina's Cristina Kirchner, Brazil's Dilma Rousseff, current president, and the former president, Lula da Silva, of course, Fidel Castro in Cuba, and Paraguay's Fernando Lugo, and then, of course, the most recent casualty, Hugo Chavez. 6 of them have been diagnosed with cancer, and he thinks there's a conspiracy going on. You like conspiracy theories, Fred?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Well, Hugo Chavez took control, was elected president of Venezuela in 1998, took office in 1999. In 2002, there was a coup. To this day, the CIA says that they were not directly involved in the coup attempt, but they did. The day of the coup, there were several statements issued by the United States State Department supporting the people, the instigators of the coup. Chavez survived the coup attempt in 2002. So that was when the relationship between the United States and Venezuela took a serious turn for the worse. Up to that time, we were cooperating militarily. We were training Venezuelan soldiers while Hugo Chavez was president. But then in 2002, it was, poof, that's the end of that deal. Chavez was having nothing to do with us. In 2007, there were documents released under a Freedom of Information Act request showing that the CIA had previously, between 2002 and 2007, made several assassination attempts on Hugo Chavez. I mean, this is open, this is widely known information. So, and we know that Fidel Castro, we've tried to kill him, the CIA.
Operation Mongoose.
Hugo Chavez was a supranationalist Bolivarian. He wanted to reunite South America under the anti-imperialist flag of Simón Bolívar. Simón Bolívar rebelled against the Spanish. Hugo Chavez's great devil, great Satan, was the United States. You know, that was his rallying cry, which is why he has such strong allies in Russia and Iran and Cuba and around the world. He's an anti-American socialist, communist, populist leader in a relatively poor country, and there's no doubt, strong evidence that we attempted to, or at least supported efforts to overthrow him and made several attempts at his assassination. So when people come out and say, oh, I mean, maybe it's a coinky-dink that there's 6 guys with cancer, I don't know. But to laugh at the possibility that we would try to kill a sworn enemy of the United States when there's documented evidence that we did is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I'm no Chavez fan, believe me. He is a communist. He nationalized many industries. The productivity of the oil industry in Venezuela, which is like the 3rd largest reserves in the world, dropped off the edge of a cliff in the last couple of years because everybody walked out of the country. All the transnational oil companies walked away. They got their property confiscated. People aren't much better off now than they were when he took power in 1998, if at all, maybe worse. It's arguable. But you can't argue with the fact that we tried to knock him off several times. You can't.
No. My only thought would be, cancer's such a slow killer. I would think that if we were going to do something, we'd use something a little more efficient, but there you go, government inefficiency, who knows?
And anything goes with the CIA, I've learned in my life.
You are mentioning guns, ganja, and the other 4 or 5 Gs.
God, gays, guns, ganja, and...
Well, let's talk about guns. There was a gun kid, a high school student, carrying a gun, loaded, a .22 pistol loaded, on a school bus in Cypress Lake, Florida. He was having an altercation or a disagreement with another student on the bus and was pointing the loaded gun at him. Another student was managed to disarm the gunman, or the gun kid, and should have been a hero, I would think.
Yeah.
But what happened to him? He got suspension. Gary, what's that all about?
Well, this is the first time I've heard about this, so I really don't know. But I mean, why would he get suspended for trying to save lives, trying to
successfully,
make sure no one else gets hurt? I mean, doing the right thing. And I mean, is this a safety issue? Is this I don't really get it. I mean, because
Here's my guess.
yeah,
I mean,
I bet there's a conspiracy in that.
my guess is that, and apparently the principal's not talking, but my guess is that there's a threat of retribution. It's not just one isolated kid with a gun that's picking on somebody else's friends. Somebody comes in, there's a group of kids here and there's a group of kids there, and
There's more to the story.
Generally, when there's a murder or a violent act, there's retribution. That's the way it happens generally around the world, gang warfare, right?
Yeah.
So maybe the idea of the suspension was just to pull a kid out of the picture for his own protection. I don't know if he was told, you will not be able to submit the assignments that are given during the period of your suspension or not. I mean, maybe it's like, man, here, we'll bring you the books. You can study at home. We'll call it a suspension, but, just keep hang low.
For your own good.
I don't know. That's the problem with a story like this. You're picking on the school system without really.
And there's plenty of reasons to pick on the school system.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
We could go on there.
Roger
But it does
Ailes.
sound like something that we would do. I mean, it's always we put the cart before the horse. Call the victim. It's crazy.
Roger Ailes, former Reagan campaign aide and the head of Fox News, is getting to that age when he's going to write his own autobiography, and he's also already had a couple of biographies written about him, one of which was authorized, one not. And I'm not sure if it's the authorized biography or the unauthorized one, but in one of them, he was quoted as calling Joe Biden dumb as an ashtray, Newt Gingrich a prick and a sore loser, and Obama lazy. First of all, is Roger Ailes correct, Patricia?
Well, I suppose he's entitled to his opinion. I would tend to agree with some of these character assessments, but I don't know if that was probably the nicest way to put it, or the.
Well, he's getting close to retirement. He probably doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, probably not. But I don't understand what he hoped to achieve with these comments.
He's the chairman of Fox News.
Right.
What shocks me is that the man has opinions. What shocks me actually is that this is actually fairly fair and balanced. I mean, he's gone after a Democrat, the Vice President Joe Biden, and he's gone after a Republican, Newt Gingrich, former presidential candidate and Speaker of the House. That's fair and balanced.
First time. History is made.
Maybe what Fox News calls itself is true.
Maybe as you get close to retirement, you don't care anymore, and so you start calling it like you see it and let the chips fall where they may. Now, if only that happened while they were, earlier in his career, we'd all be a lot better off.
Wouldn't that be?
Anyway, that's the show for this week. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place on the Libertarian Counterpoint. We're on the air at...
No, I'm not a doctor, and I don't even play one on TV. I'm actually an actor hired by the Federal Trade Commission to show you why it's best to use a healthy dose of skepticism when you see ads for cancer cures. Scary and cool as it is, there are companies set up to take advantage of people with cancer, promising cures that aren't proven to work and may even be harmful. If you or someone you care about has cancer, the last thing you need is a scam. What's the first thing you need? To talk to your doctor. He or she can tell you about any risks of the product and how it might affect your ongoing treatment or any medications you might be taking. Next, be skeptical of claims for cancer treatment products that you see on the internet. You'll hear about supposedly hot products like Black Sal, Laetrile, and Esiac-T, and how they can provide relief for your symptoms or even a cure for the disease. Other things to be aware of: the word natural. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean safe and effective. Natural can be harmful and ineffective. One size doesn't fit all. All cancers are different, and no one treatment works for everybody. Even two people with the same diagnosis may need different treatments. Now, exactly how do these scams work to earn your trust? They use testimonials. They seem real, but testimonials can be completely fake. I look like a doctor, right? And those patients you see, often actors paid to endorse the product. They use technical jargon, a lot of it. But scientific talk doesn't guarantee scientific proof. Big words from a medical dictionary are no substitute from the plain facts from your doctor. The bottom line about treatment is always talk to your doctor. For more information on how to spot phony cancer treatments and supposed cancer cures, visit ftc.gov/curious. You'll also find sources of information that you and your doctor can trust.